So I'll go ahead and give a screen share. So
I would rather we just do our own, but
yeah. Okay. So let's see. Oops. Is it? Okay. So can you see the YouTube?
I can.
All right. Well then, let's get right into it then. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Full screen. Go full screen on it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Is my face coming up on the screen?
Yes, your face is coming up on the
screen. Okay, great. All right. Well, let's get started then. Super Mario Brothers movie reaction for the Samurai Brothers.
Well, so obviously that's like some kind of a fortress or whatever it is. And then Kamek and the Koopa Troopers. And the big man himself. And he's being voiced by Jack Black. And it's funny how the one dude.
So here's what we have so far. I mean, one of the things that I think was, interesting was the fortress. But I know that a lot of people have been, commenting. Whoever voiced Magi, the Magi Koopa, did a good job on that. I know that I saw quite a bit of praise in some of the other comments for that, but it's starting out interesting so far, don't you think? With this,
yeah. So they're like going at whatever that kingdom is, and
yeah. But yeah, I mean, spot on. The design for Koopa is I think it's pretty something, and I know a lot of people, are saying that maybe the voice could have been deeper, but let's get right into it.
And we got a bunch of penguins. I think this is a reference to Super Mario 64. And Bowser's just take.
Oh, they got one Koopa.
They got one Koopa. And then he just, barrels down the gates.
So, obviously, they're utilizing Bowser and his flame breath, and pretty much those guys are powerless, right? I think.
Yeah, like I said, the penguins I think are a reference to Mario 64, where that one stage where you help the penguins, but yeah, so they're going up against, they're thinking, oh, we're gonna pelt you with snowballs, and Bowser's just like.
Well, I mean, when they're dropping lava rocks and then flame and everything, usually ice doesn't work too well against flame and stuff like that.
Well, it's especially against lava.
Yeah.
Well, one commentator that I watched who also did the reaction noted how there's like a lot of variety in the Koopa Troopers. So if you look closely, there's variety in like the types of Koopa Troopers.
Well, that probably reflects the times. Obviously, when it came out originally, you only had certain types, and then as the games have progressed, as time has gone on, they've got their variety of Koopa Troopers.
Yeah, so you've got who knows how many varieties of Koopa Troopers, and they're actually making them look competent. Because normally Koopa Troopers are easy. And another thing, I think the reason why they left out the Goombas is because originally the Goombas were from the Mushroom Kingdom. Right. So, and they were like some kind of Mushroom Kingdom which makes sense. They look like mushrooms. There's some kind of mushroom kingdom creatures, and they defected to Bowser's side is what happened. So this is not so the Goombas being absent is not really inconsistent with the Mario universe. But yeah, and of course they showed well,
let's see how it goes.
And then they showed Comic's powers. He is the magical one, and then they showed Bowser's goal, which is he's going for the Star of Power.
Yep. So let's finish this trailer up, and then we'll finish out with this reaction. Here we go. All right. So yeah, that's it. That is the. Let me see. Stop screen sharing here. All right, Matthew. So yeah, that is the Super Mario Brothers movie. So coming out next year, and I'm actually pretty excited. I'll tell you what, because it happened before and it happened this time. I got goosebumps from hearing that little Mario tune.
The din 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 din.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's full like orchestral.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I'm glad that they decided to go the animated route, not the live action route.
Yeah, because the reality is, despite all the technology and like the live capture and everything, it's like you're limited in what you can do. With the live action route. But if you can do, it's always been that way. You can do stuff with with animation that you cannot do no matter how much technology you have with live action. So another thing that again, I've watched a few different commentators, and they mention how in the background you actually see little background like characters from the various video games, and then also the most obvious fact is that it's like there's Toad, there's Mario, and then Toad saying "Don't touch that mushroom, you'll die." That's an obvious reference to, in the first game, there was the poison mushrooms.
Right, the Lost Levels had the poison mushroom.
Oh, it was the Lost Levels, okay.
Right, yeah, the poison mushroom. Poison mushroom didn't come up in the first one.
They didn't come up?
Well, what ended up, you had Super Mario Brothers, which was 1985, and then they released a second version of it, and in Japan it was Super Mario Brothers 2, but it was never released in the U.S. because Nintendo deemed it too difficult for
Nintendo America.
Right, they deemed it too difficult for the customers. So, but they released it for the first time with the All-Stars game pack.
And it was released as the Lost Levels.
Right, it was released as the Lost Levels because
what became known as Super Mario Brothers 2 in the US was originally a completely separate game called Doki Doki Panic, and they basically swapped the
they palette swapped.
Yeah, they palette swapped the characters. And that's the first adaptation in which Luigi is portrayed as being taller than Mario.
Right. And that's that's how it kind of canonically came to be that, yeah, Luigi is taller than Mario.
Though I have seen some adaptations where they are the same height.
Right.
But it just most games, yeah. Luigi
right. Most games nowadays do portray Luigi as taller than Mario. Yeah. Because I think, and I think they did release Super Mario Brothers 2 in Japan, and that one they release it as Super Mario USA. So
well, that would make sense considering that it was originally
it ended up coming from the US. And then obviously Super Mario Bros. 3 didn't change at all.
Yeah, it was universal across the board.
Right. And then
that happens to games a lot because I remember there were like there were 4 different games of Pokemon, for example. There was in Japan, Red, Green, and Blue were all released, and then Yellow was released as after the anime came out,
right?
Which adapted the anime. But my understanding was only Red came out. The only version that came out in its original form in the US was Red. Blue was, which turns out was actually no, wait a minute. Green, which so Japanese Blue was another upgrade from the first 2. Japanese Green became American Blue.
Right.
And Japanese Blue was never released in any form in the US.
Right.
Which would have been interesting, but
Yeah.
I still have my American Blue.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to play it on, but I still have my American Blue.
Yeah. Probably the better thing to do would be to get like a DS, and then you can get like the because DS the original DS can and a DS Lite, I think, can still play GBA games.
And try to get one of those because they're
right. You could get like the Ruby Red or the Emerald Green, I think, because they re-released those versions on for GBA.
That's another thing. I was actually I recently watched another and it came out on an educational what's it called? Channel that I normally watch on YouTube. It's called, I think it was Knowledge Hub, but it might have been Pointless Hub. But the guy talked about the Pokemon games and how there's not a whole lot of variation and upgrade nowadays from game to game. And he pointed out that something like I think 75%, or it might have been 80%, but a large amount of the revenue that comes from the Pokemon franchise nowadays is merchandise sales.
Right.
It's the games and even the Pokemon cards are compared to the larger part of the revenue is a small part of the revenue.
Yeah, because I'm always seeing videos or people stream on Twitch where they're opening up the Pokemon cards and trying to get they're trying to find these rare cards. I think also what's really diluted the card game is the fact that they, you can have 5 different versions of a rare card in the same packet. It's kind of like what they did with the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, where originally, the rarities in the Pokemon card packs were just, you had your holo rare, you had your non-holo rares, and that was pretty much it. And then when they released those original Japanese packs in the US, you had your cards that had the holo rare, and then you had those same cards would have a non-holo, and then you had your regular rare cards. So then it ended up being 3 types. But then now there's this EX rare, and then there's the whole card is going to be holo, where it used to be just the picture. it's all this different type of stuff, and I think that's where it really, dilutes the market and stuff these days. But I was, I went onto this website a couple days ago, a website that I used to go on to. I don't know if you remember it, but do you remember how sometimes I would buy these magazines that had like the card prices and stuff?
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, I think it was Beckett, which they're still around. It was like Beckett magazine, which would list, the monthly prices of cards and stuff like that. They weren't the specific website I went to, but I know that they're still around, and I think a lot of times, you have to subscribe to these sites if you want to get like the upgraded pricing and stuff. But really,
they have to make money somehow,
right? But that's really for places that are, you would really be subscribing to that if you're in the industry. You're buying and selling the, being a card collector or card trader, I guess. Obviously, we kind of still have our cards, and I've been wanting to try and get into
our dear
trading.
sister actually restarted collecting them, I think on more of a casual basis, kind of like how I started recollecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards on a casual basis. Honestly, when it comes one example is that when it comes to like stuff like that, this at one point there is actually a game store nearby that does Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, and at one point I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna do that. This is the extent of my Yu-Gi-Oh game involvement, is because it does everything automatically. I just have to go yes or no if I want to activate some kind of a card.
Yeah, use a spell card or something. Yeah.
It's kind of funny because like the Yu-Gi-Oh deck, I don't know how much the archetypes, and I don't think that like archetypes and stuff like that is really as connected in like Pokemon, for an example, as it is in like Yu-Gi-Oh. But it's like in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna put together a Kaiba deck, a Yugi deck, Jonouchi, or Joey.
Joey, yeah.
Yes, as she's known in the US deck, and it's just like. And I came to realize, oh my gosh, with the way the game is now, if I want to be competitive, it's like there's no way. What I ended up doing was I ended up having a Dark Magician archetype deck, which is all stuff related to Dark Magician. I did a Dark Magician archetype deck. I did a Blue Eyes archetype deck, a Red Eyes archetype deck, and the other one I use is the Toon archetype deck. So
yeah,
it's just
because we only know, because we kind of go based on the characters from the manga and the anime, so we're kind of old school when it comes to that. So I don't blame you for. Yeah,
I stuck with what's familiar to me.
Right.
Honestly, even when I found out that they were starting to do stuff after the end of the original run, I was like, this isn't real. It wasn't written by Takahashi. It's like none of it. It's like he did the original stuff. That was it. None of the new stuff was written by Takahashi. So as far as I'm concerned, the canon, it's like
it stopped.
It's like Yu-Gi-Oh can have this all big giant franchise, and I even use cards that came out from the filler arcs because they're useful.
Right.
But it's, as far as I'm concerned, the canon is the original manga. And if I'm going to watch something, I'm going to watch not the original anime, because that was limited, because there was 2 anime based on the original manga. But it's going to be Duel Monsters.
Yeah, Duel Monsters. You're going to watch Duel Monsters.
Yeah, it's as far as it's like, as far as I'm concerned, that's.
I will say though, Duel Monsters, based on, you know, when I used to, you know, because sometimes I would get home and I'd be watching it, you know, on the Japanese TV and stuff. I can tell you that they did have the Duel Monsters did have its own fair share of filler episodes.
Yeah, that's what I talked about, the filler. Like, the entire 4th season was a filler season. It was nothing but filler, completely. And like I said, I actually use some of those cards in my decks because they're very useful, but it's...
Yeah, I mean, just...
You know what's really crazy? There's enough God card-related cards, and that the anime versions, the manga anime versions of the God cards are just completely overpowered.
Oh, so
you can still... There are players who actually make decks based off of the God card archetypes.
Well, yeah, because the original ones, when they came out, were promo only, so they weren't tournament legal. But then they managed to make the cards so that then they could, they made versions of them so that they could be tournament legal. But obviously, you know, they have to be like effect cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're like severely dumbed down, but you could still make a deck out of those, the God card archetypes, and they're like, it's still possible to like do overpowered destruction, like win.
Well, because I think at some tournament, because there are some cards that they've released in the official, you know, TCG that are banned from tournaments.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of them.
I think for a while even Exodia was banned from tournaments. And
Not anymore. I've played in Master Duels. I've played Exodia decks.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also possible to beat an Exodia deck because they're limited. It's
right.
If I'm sure if they had a choice, then everyone would be putting like 3 of each of the Exodia pieces in there. You can't do that because they're limited. You can only put the 5. Only put the set of 5 in there.
I'm wondering if that's what the issue was that people were putting in, you know, more than one Exodia set into their decks. That might have been the issue, because then you had your chances of getting the whole Exodia set was a lot better than, you know, just one.
Well, you know, for the longest time, what we know as in Japan as the Thousand Eyes Sacrifice, I think it's called Relinquished, in the US, but that was banned for a while.
I think Relinquished is the original version, and then I think, or yeah, you might, because Thousand Eyes Sacrifice I think is the what did they call those, the monsters when they combine? Because those were the purple cards.
Right. Those are the
I forget what they're called.
Not merged.
Yeah. But yeah, you know what was funny was, yeah, the Thousand Eyes Sacrifice, that was like one of the first ultra rare cards that I was able to find when I was, you know, collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards. You know, I'd go to the convenience stores and buy them, because, you know, back then, I mean, for what they were charging for those cards, it's like 150 yen for 5 cards. Now, those packs always, you know, they didn't always have rare cards. You wouldn't always have rare cards in.
Yeah, it wasn't like the Pokemon cards where you're guaranteed at least one rare.
Right, exactly. And I don't know if it was Yu-Gi-Oh or if it was Pokemon, but sometimes you could get 2 rares in a booster pack.
It could have been both, for all we know.
Yeah. So, and then I don't know how they do it in Japan right now, whether they're only selling the 5-card packs or whether they're selling them as 9 or 10 card packs right now.
The only ones that come out over the minimums are 10 cards out here.
Right, over here. That's why they charge like $4 or $5 a pack, I think, or even $6, I think. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's $6 right now because of the inflation. Yeah, card collecting is not a cheap hobby anymore. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, definitely not cheap hobby anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, so the decks that I create, they're based off of the alpha monsters of the archetype, not the core people in the deck. Like it's not my Kaiba deck, it's not my Yugi deck, it's not my Joey deck, it's not my Pegasus deck. It's my It's my Dark Magician deck, it's my Blue Eyes deck, it's my Red Eyes deck, and it's my Toon deck. And interestingly enough, the deck that I'm using right now in Master Duels, the most that I found is the easiest to summon higher level monsters is actually my Blue Eyes deck. No, not my Blue Eyes deck, my Red Eyes deck. There's a lot of monsters in the archetype that actually make it easier. Their effects allows you to special summon the higher level monsters in the deck easier.
Okay.
The other decks, it's a lot harder. It's possible to summon the alpha monsters, but it's a little bit more on the difficult side. So if you're going purely off of the archetype, the way that I structure it, so I just my Red Eyes deck is just a better deck in terms of like getting the monsters out there.